Break with Rachel Vigil, taking a daily look at the biggest stories in Denver sports and interacting live with you, the Coffee Break fam. So sit back, relax, grab a cup of joe, and enjoy your coffee break. Here's your host, Rachel Vigil.
Happy opening day, everybody, down here at Coors Field. Andrew Mason, Rachel Vigil. It's beautiful, 75 degrees. We had a little bit of batting practice behind us going on, Mace. It's opening day, and I know the Rockies aren't very good, but it's still an exciting day.
It's an exciting day. I mean, I was saying on the radio side an hour ago, Rachel, opening day around here, it's more than baseball. It's like a civic celebration of springtime. And if we kind of go into the baseball part of it, I mean, if you've been around here for a long time, you know that the effort to get baseball was a 3.5-decade effort before the Rockies came in.
Yeah.
And even though the team is struggling, and as we could debate, everything that's wrong, left, right, and center, you know what? It's still special. The team still does mean something around here. And there's fresh hope. Even though they're 1-6, they're coming home and talking to the guys in the clubhouse today. I mean, there's fresh hope that getting back in front of the fans can maybe get this thing turned around toward respectability.
And I'm curious who you heard from in the clubhouse and what were they saying? Because it is always fun to come and play in front of your own home fans.
Yeah, Charlie Blackmon, Nolan Jones, Ryan McMahon. Now, with Nolan Jones, he's off to a ghastly start, 3 for 29. But of course, but getting promoted to the big club last year, had a good season. As Jake Shapiro, who's producing this show, pointed out.
We love Jake.
Yeah, there's some metrics that reveal that it might not be sustainable, and perhaps there is some regression to the mean going on for Nolan Jones right now.
Yeah.
But Coors Field woke him up last year. He had some mammoth shots that were among the longest home runs hit in Major League Baseball last year, and maybe that can wake him up again. He hasn't lost his confidence. I'll say that for him. And he's got Charlie Blackmon actually took time during the road trip to show him some of his errors after his error Monday night that basically broke the game wide open in Chicago. So it's a clubhouse that's still together even after 1-6.
It is a clubhouse that is still together, and more so, they even backed up Chris Bryant when there was some drama that happened with him earlier on in the season or earlier on in training, camp or spring training.
It all blends together, Rachel.
When we're talking hockey, basketball, we got football. There's so much, but one way or another, they're backing Chris Bryant.
Yeah.
I'm going to be interested to see how the crowd here at Coors Field welcomes Chris Bryant a little, because he kind of did do a diss, and maybe not a meaningful way, a little bit of a diss at the Rockies.
I'd like to think that the home opener crowd would be benign, but who knows? I mean, I could see the boos cranking up if we get toward the end of this 6-game homestand here, and he hasn't got it going. Of course, he did have the 2 hits on Wednesday night to break off the 0 for 18 Schneid to start the season. But yeah, like the comments there, even though he did his best to walk them back, I mean, that
immediately too. Like, let's not say this was a week later. This was like next day he was saying, whoa. I can't say anything like that.
Yes. And and there's a lot of layers to it, not the least of which is in the Major League Baseball players' culture, you take the best offer, even if it comes from a lesser team, and you don't want to kind of have it out there that I didn't know what I was getting into before I signed the contract, right? And certainly, how does that look in the clubhouse? So I don't know that there were any apologies made, but I think what he said publicly certainly was an effort to walk it back. But it may be harder to win over the fans than the clubhouse, because to make a cross-sport comparison here, Rachel, we've seen with Russell Wilson, Denver sports fans don't like it when you're making a lot of money for not doing very much. And here we are for Chris Bryant. We're just starting year 3 of the 7-year, $182 million contract.
Yeah, getting a little windy out here. It really is gorgeous down here, though, if you're planning to come out for Rockies opening day. I think there were still a few tickets, but the prices were kind of a little bit absurd, if we're going to be completely honest, Mace. For a team that is not very good, to have tickets that are $85 upwards into the 200s seems a little ridiculous.
It is, but at the same time, it's supply and demand. Historically, there's been a demand for opening day seats. Now, that being said, I think whether you're talking about pricing or you're talking about a team that isn't a great draw, even though the Tampa Bay Rays are a perennial contender, how many Rays fans do you know here in Colorado?
You know, Mace, I only know one Tampa Bay fan in general, and that's you, and I think it's mostly for the Lightning.
Yeah, and so yeah, it was my baseball loyalties were established before the Rays came in. So, I mean, I know a lot of Rays fans, but they all live in Florida. Like a lot of people I know are going to be watching this game today down in Florida.
Yeah, for sure.
As well as here in Colorado. But it's not a draw. This is not like when the Cubs come in for opening day, or the Dodgers, or the Cardinals, or even a team like the Braves that has a pretty national following. So I think that led to a softer demand for tickets. And I'm actually curious to see what the crowds look like on Saturday and Sunday, because usually there's a good sustained burst through that opening series.
Yep.
But we got some foul weather rolling in on Saturday, and you have a team that isn't a great draw when they come in here in the Rays. So we'll see what the crowd looks like tomorrow night out here.
You know what, Mace? It may not be excellent baseball, but they're playing all of the jams today because I can hear the music. I'm sure the people watching could probably hear the music. There are some good hits that are being played down here. But I do want to move on to the Denver Broncos because, of course, everybody is wondering what they're going to do in the draft, what it's going to look like. The Patriots saying that they want more than 3 first-round picks, essentially, to move out of the number 3 spot, which seems kind of crazy to think about. But also, we have to get into a little bit about Sean Payton and all of the quarterbacks that have been talking about him recently, saying he's been the toughest offseason for them, essentially.
Yeah, and basically what Sean's trying to find out is
can handle the
what
pressure.
They can handle. He referred to a break point when he was talking about J.J. McCarthy last week, and give the hat tip to Cecil for asking the question that got this information out there. But they send all this information to the quarterbacks the night before they meet.
Yep.
How much can they ingest between then and when they meet the next day? Finding kind of the break point of that. They're also trying to learn about how quickly they can take that information in, because that has a chance of revealing something about the processor. Mm-hmm. So you're hearing it over and over again. Like Spencer Rattler talked about the quiz that Sean Payton is giving. He referred to like the information he gave J.J. McCarthy. Michael Penix Jr., with whom the Broncos met earlier this week, they also met with him at the Combine, and they sat him down in the suite at Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis, basically showed his bad plays, which I imagine included quite a few from the national championship game, and asked him, hey, kind of what were you doing here? Right? Yeah. And I think part of this is you're trying to, for Sean Payton, Sean knows that he goes hard on these quarterbacks.
As he should.
Yeah. I think he's trying to find out, can they stand up to it?
Yeah.
And with J.J. McCarthy having worked with Jim Harbaugh in Michigan, you know that he's probably going to be able to stand up to it. We don't necessarily know the answer to that for Michael Penix Jr., for Drake May, for Bo Nix, for example, and for Spencer Rattler, and that's part of what you're trying to get to the bottom of here.
I have been kind of critical of Sean Payton over the past couple of weeks, but to be honest, hearing that every single quarterback is coming out and saying Sean Payton has been the toughest one, the game plan that they've kind of had, and just throwing a bunch of information, it's provided me a little bit of extra, like, okay, maybe Sean Payton is going to lock down and find the quarterback that they actually need. But the bigger question is now is, yeah, you may find it, but you also may have to move up, and it may not be super easy.
Yeah, because when you mentioned the price tag for the Patriots, 3 first-round picks.
That's insane.
I mean.
That is your entire future, Mason. If it doesn't work out, my goodness.
Well, and that's the whole thing that's sort of interesting about the choice that befalls the Broncos here, because if you stand pat at 12 and you pick Bo Nix, or maybe if you move down, take Bo Nix or Michael Penix Jr., I think Nix's skill set fits better than Michael Penix Jr., but the Broncos had Penix in this week.
Yeah.
They talked with him at the Combine. So the fact that they brought him back in for a top 30 visit, I think tells you a lot about the level of digging they're doing. You don't do that unless you want to learn more.
I know this sounds really simple, and it's like, of course, Rachel, there's always a backup plan. But do you think that there is a backup plan for QBs, or is Sean going to get the number one guy he wants, or if that doesn't happen, they're going to go with a different position?
Well, I think it's Sean, but also maybe talking with George Payton. It's going to be Sean's call, but where George Payton comes in is the intel around the league saying, okay, this is what I think this team is doing, that team is doing. Because if it's Nix or Penix, then you have to have the question, of can we move down? If so, how far can we move down to make sure we still get that quarterback and maybe add some more draft capital? Because when you're making this decision, you might love J.J. McCarthy, for
100%.
example. But let's say, if you're talking about the break point that Sean Payton referred to, let's say J.J. McCarthy's break point is, you're going on this scale like here. Let's say J.J.'s is here and Bo Nix's is right here.
Yep.
Is that difference worth 2 or 3 first-round picks that you'd have to surrender to move up and get McCarthy compared to Bo Nix?
And how much you trust your coach, right? Like, Sean Payton is going to transform whichever quarterback this is into the next best thing. At least that can be the hope. And if you're obviously hiring him, that's what you believe. So the Broncos have to be looking at Bo Nix saying, okay, if he's right there next to J.J. McCarthy, he works with Sean Payton for a year, 2 years, can he be that first rounder if we would have just moved up?
Well, I think these quarterbacks coming in, and this is something Sean Payton addressed last week as well. He says, look, these guys are smart coming in. They've done a lot of things conceptually.
Yes.
So the thing is, so if you're a quarterback, even though you're going to be pushed by Sean Payton, would you rather have this than, say, a situation in New England that has a lot of unknowns with Gerard Mayo and his staff? Like, I'd say this, like, you have, say, 6 teams that are in the quarterback mix right now, maybe 7. So you've got Chicago, obviously, Washington, New England, Minnesota, Denver, the Raiders, and perhaps the New York Giants. If you are a quarterback, where would you rather go? Like, I would argue, all due respect to the Chicago Bears, I'm not sure you want to go to the Chicago Bears. And Caleb Williams doesn't have much of a choice.
True.
Sorry, Jake, but, it's not, you might be looking at a coaching change in a year if Matt Eberflus can't get it going.
Yeah.
I would argue that a quarterback may be looking at Denver with Sean Payton, Minnesota with Kevin O'Connell, of course, a Shanahan-McVay coach, and Washington with Cliff Kingsbury as situations that are probably better than Chicago, New England, the Raiders coming in. And so that's something that environment matters. And I'll quote my friend Cecil Lammy on Orange and Blue today, fit matters. Yeah. And Broncos might be in position to have the best fit to where even if they take QB5, they might get a quarterback performance that's like QB2 out of this draft.
I have always joked I would never want to be the first pick in any sort of draft because that means you are going to the worst team. Like, there is something to be said to be the 5th or the 6th, quarterback that's going off the board because, maybe you're not going to the worst team and it's not going to be as much of a struggle. I've always said that. If I was going to be drafted, I would not want to be the first overall. I understand the honor that comes with it, but the future that can hold with it for the next couple of years might be a little rough.
Well, at least Chicago wasn't the worst team last year because they have it's Carolina's pick. They were, they have the 9th pick of their own volition, and they did play well down the stretch. And they do have some talent. That's like you look around that roster, you see, DJ Moore at wide receiver, you see Cole Kmet at tight end. They've got some weapons there. They're putting together a decent team. I'm just not sure that Eberflus and his staff are the ones to get them there. And if that's the case, are you turning around and changing the offense a year in for Caleb Williams?
Yep.
That's the thing. Whereas Sean Payton, he's going to be the coach of this team next year.
Yes.
Unless they go like 0-17. He's going to be back. He actually has established his bona fides with ownership in that building based on going from 5 wins to 8 and also cleaning up a lot of the mess that was left behind. So the Broncos draft Bo Nix or whoever. Sean Payton's going to be his coach this year. Sean Payton's going to be his coach next year.
Yep.
And if there's appropriate progress shown, Sean Payton's going to be the coach in 2026. So you're going to have consistency that I think will help that quarterback. That's why and also the offensive line is pretty good. Even though you're changing centers, the offensive line is much better than it was a couple of years ago for the Broncos. And I think that's the key thing to have for a quarterback. I look at that O-line and I say, okay, the QB's not going to get killed.
Yeah.
Which is not something you can necessarily say for a lot of situations where quarterbacks might go.
Which is funny because when I look back at Russell Wilson, so many of the times that he got sacked was his own fault.
Yes.
So you already know that Sean Payton is going to say, stay in the pocket, but we're not going to see a ton of running around, which is definitely a Sean Payton offense.
Yes, coach.
Yes, coach.
Yes, coach. Whatever you say, coach.
Coach.
You want me to get it out, 2 reads, and then take off? Yes, coach. Whatever you say.
I ask you this every single week you're on, Mace, but right now, your gut feeling, what are the Broncos doing with the number 12 pick?
My gut feeling is They may have some offers, but they won't want to take the risk, and they'll stand pat at 12, and they'll take Bo
No
Nix.
moving up.
No moving up. No moving down. The moving up price would be too rich. I think they'll find themselves comfortable with Bo Nix and the fact that he can effectively keep the Sean Payton offense on schedule. And also, it's funny, he's probably more ready to start right away than a J.J. McCarthy or a Drake May. I think it'll be Bo Nix to the Broncos at number 12. I know a lot of people are saying that as well. So I feel like I'm just chiming in with the chorus. But I think that's the most likely outcome.
Well, and what Bo Nix did in college is very much aligned with what Sean Payton is looking to run as an offense. He can run if he needs to.
Yeah.
We saw that in 2022, but he's also very good in the pocket, very calm, and that's exactly what Sean Payton likes.
Yeah, I think Bo Nix had double-digit touchdowns last year as well on the ground. Was it 14 touchdowns, I believe? And that'll be a fascinating element because Payton will encourage Bo Nix to, if it's not out there 1-2, take the yardage that's there, and that will open some things up underneath coverage wise as well. So if it's Bo Nix, I'm cautiously optimistic that this offense can be improved this year. They need a few more things. I'd like to see improvement at running back, but I think with Bo Nix, it can look a little better.
I'm actually kind of jumping on the Bo Nix hype train. I'm like, don't trade up to J.J. McCarthy at number 4. Keep the draft picks. Let's go with Bo Nix. I'm curious what all of you are thinking in the comments. If you are watching us over on YouTube, make sure you subscribe, like, and comment. You can check out this guy and Cecil Lamby every single weekday, 4 p.m. for Orange and Blue Today, talking all things Broncos. But it is a beautiful day here in the Mile High City. We are going to get ready for some baseball here in just a little bit. So, Andrew Mason, thank you so much.
My pleasure, Rachel. Good to see you.
Always a blast. And to everybody, I also got to give a shout out to Jake Shapiro. Make sure you're following him on Twitter. I know he's going to give a bunch of awesome content today at opening day. And we will see you guys on Monday. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody. Bye.